Welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
And I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to discuss Green Room. This is from 2015. So this film follows a rock band that performs a show in the country somewhere at a neo-Nazi hangout bar. And when they witness a murder, they are trapped and have to fight their way out. This movie stars Anton Yelchin and Patrick Stewart. Jean-Luc Picard himself.
We're talking about sucking the thunder right out of me.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I couldn't even believe it. Like, it was like, for me, it was like, isn't that Patrick Stewart? Like, somewhere I have an autographed picture of him somewhere.
And he's so great too. It's funny. I saw this movie in theaters when it came out. I loved it. It was, I watch it every couple of years, and it had been a while. And then, we covered the film Rebel Ridge at some point in relation to this episode. Mm-hmm. And I realized that was your pick, and I saw that it was the same director as this movie. So it made me think, okay, I got to go back, give this another watch. The director and writer is Jeremy Saulnier. And yeah, I love this one. Tell me what you thought. I imagine you probably had never heard of this.
No.
Maybe it was kind of under the radar.
And this is a real difference that we do it, because we have a lot. We're rating these the same and everything, but you are really in tune to this kind of a movie where I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm not kind of a slasher movie guy or anything like that, or the zombies or anything like that. I kind of, but when you turn me on to these, I love them. And this movie is really great. It's got some moments, flash to the very end, where they have these killer attack fighting dogs, the Nazis. And at one point, the guy who trains the dog, he has to leave, mm-hmm. and the dog breaks free and heads out after him, and then it's like the very end, and they see the attack dog coming, and they know they got to kill it. They got a shotgun, but he just goes right by him, and he goes over to his dead master, mm-hmm. and then he gets there and he just lays down with his face on him. Then he dies.
Yeah, it's such a bittersweet moment.
It's like, I didn't think anything like that was going to happen in this movie. Right? But the dog, he turned into a sweetheart at the end. He was like, "I'm with you. I'm gonna die together." Yeah. And this movie is a death movie. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember the name of the blonde girl who's trapped in the room. She's not in the band, but Pam or Pat?
Amber, played by
Amber.
Imogen Poots.
Imogen Poots does a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. She's like, we are going to die. They're going to kill us. Like, she's not afraid of that. She doesn't want that to happen, but she realizes that it's an unavoidable eventuality. It's almost like, how do you want to go out? Like, I say we go out fighting, mm-hmm. And she really does.
Yeah.
Like, she really does. Like, she takes a lot of hits and she's an unexpected, interesting character.
Yeah.
Like, I thought she was just like the ditzy groupie or something.
Yeah.
But you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to get red shoelaces and wear them and like sort of sit like this or something to see if anybody realized, because in the movie, the Nazis, who are a made man, Patrick Stewart is the godfather of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And he's got this place out in the sticks where they have like punk bands, but grind band, mm-hmm. and he's got these slam dancing people. It's all tough guys, Nazis. And if you're made it, if you're on the inner circle, you wear red shoelaces, and it's an award. It's like an award, mm-hmm. right? And the guy who's the stage manager of the place, who's not one, when he comes through in a certain amount of way, Patrick Stewart's like, "Hey, here's your red laces." Yeah. And even though he really doesn't want that, he realizes, it's his cut. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like for bikers, how they have a cut from the club. They wear the colors, right?
Right.
It's like, this was that. Like, this is your thing that you made it. But he didn't want to make it. He really was a guy who really wanted to be peaceful and get out of there, but he just happened to be working there. And that was real interesting to me, that whole aspect. Mm-hmm. And this kind of thing where these places are out in the country, this really happens. Because when I graduated from high school, there was a guy, and he was a drummer as I was a drummer. And he said, I'm going to go to California. I'm going to put my drums in a Pinto, and I'm going to drive out there. And he left New Jersey. And somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania, he stopped. And they said, oh, my God, you got a drum set? Well, we got a place, a dirt floor bar, right? why don't you bring that on in here and play with our boys? And, you can stay here tonight and sleep here and we'll make dinner for you and everything. And he set up the drum set and played along with them and everything. And he never went any further. At the end of summer, he came back to New Jersey and we said, well, how was California? He says, never made it past Pennsylvania.
Dang,
he said, I had so much fun. I was hanging out with these people. I'm sleeping on the dirt floor, and all that. So when I saw that place, it reminded me of what happened with this guy. Here are these punk band guys with their lifestyle, and they went to San Francisco and they had a bad deal from a gig. They didn't get paid, and now they're broke. They're going to siphon gasoline to get home. And the guy there says, look, I'll set you up with some family of mine in Oregon, and they'll give you a gig. They'll pay you $350.
Yep.
So they drive up there to do that. And when they get up there, they're the opening band for the house band, the Cow Catchers.
I forgot.
The house band was the Cow Catchers, right? But they opened up and they realized that they were all Nazis. And the guy goes, well, I think I'm going to open up by going to the microphone and telling them I'm a Jew. And then they played the song F the Nazis.
Yeah.
Right? The Nazis are just like, they're throwing beers at them and the band's dodging it, And they go to their car and the one guy says, I left my phone in the green room. He goes back in the green room, and that's where he sees that one of the cow catchers has stabbed a woman in the head. And they say, oh, no, get all the band, bring them back in. We got to deal with this. We got to call the cops, and, we got to do this. And a real interesting thing that's a nuance of the movie, I'm sure you caught it, but I want to tell everybody is somebody called the police. They said there was a stabbing. So it was like, God. So now somebody has to get stabbed. So they got these two guys and they said, look, you're going to take one for the team and he's going to stab you, but not really hurt you.
Yeah.
And then the police come, it's like, here he is. This is the stabbing. You see his bleeding. And the cops are like, well, we'll put him in handcuffs. They know this is a show for the cops, right? They had blown it already. It was like, okay, now let's do some damage control.
And they've definitely done this kind of thing before. He makes a comment about, don't worry, the blade is shorter than 6 inches, so it's not a felony, or you're not going to get in trouble for this charge because of the size of the blade. And, if you end up getting locked up for a bit, we'll pay you more. And he even says, and this is, I think the actor's name is Macomb Blair, who's kind of the logistical manager or stage manager there. And he even says, I need a couple true believers. And those are the young guys they get to get arrested.
Prospects. They're trying to earn the red laces.
Yeah,
I could take a knife wound. I'll do it. And the both are going to get arrested. And that this is what you have to do to prove yourself, make your bones.
Yeah.
Right. So they're doing that, but they put the band back in and they tell them, you got to wait here till we figure out what to do with you. And then the problem is that the girl who I mentioned, right, Imogen Poots, she's also in there. She's a witness too, right? She's not part of their band. She's like, you guys don't quite understand what's going on.
Yeah,
here.
we're not walking away from this.
Yeah, right. We're a loose end, and so they become desperate. And one of the guys tries to smash his way through the floor, which he successfully does. But that's when he finds the heroin lab. Right?
Yeah, now it's even worse. Yeah.
In the meantime, more of this is a nightclub. It's a bar. It's a whatever you want to call it. So there's a couple hundred people there that were there dancing and drinking, and they're all cranked up, and so he doesn't have any problem getting the posse to surround the place and trap these guys. And
that's where they call in Darcy, who's the manager, and that is Patrick Stewart. He's the big boss of all this. So he comes through now. He's trying to figure out the situation and gets everybody to leave. Like, hey, we'll do a free show next week. Yeah, free drinks next time. And everyone, and don't forget, we'll have our little meeting pretty soon, and then there's a whole interesting aspect of that too, where, this whole place exists as like a recruitment ground for young punk kids, angsty kids that can be like brought into this. Hey, you want to feel like you're part of this brotherhood and this thing.
Radicalized people, very radicalized.
You're going to see some punk shows, and hey, we're going to have a meeting about, whatever we're going to meet about, some white supremacy stuff. And it's interesting, that whole place. And
and once again, as I said with the guy in Pennsylvania, these places are out there.
Yeah, for sure.
There are towns that are out there, and I went in a town once where everybody in the town had a monster truck, and they had a refrigerator full of bricks and a big field of mud, And on Saturday, the whole town went there and they did this dragging the refrigerator full of bricks through the mud with these giant 4-wheel drive things. Like everybody in town did this. Like the cops let these vehicles, they didn't have license plates. They let them sort of go down Main Street and get to this place and do the event and then go home, you know?
Yeah.
I went to this place one time, motorcycle riding up in Montana where there was pigs everywhere, like in the street. And I stayed in a little house that had 2 bedrooms that shared a bathroom. That was the hotel. And in the morning, they wanted, I don't drink coffee. They wanted to give me a cast iron coffee pot and like 2 eggs and then like a ham steak this big that was 1 inch thick with a bone in the middle. Because that's what they feed you. They just like wall-to-wall pigs. Like you go there, it's like, here's your breakfast. You know, it's a giant slice of a pig. So across America, there are places that stuff is going on, you know, where the whole town is involved, you know. I went to this beautiful place in Pennsylvania where everybody was like a steeplechase horse racer.
Okay.
And the whole town came out in the weekend and they had every facility for this and, you know, fried chicken and lemonade and everybody had these beautiful horses and sort of the whole town. Like if you lived there, it was inescapable. There's probably like a computer nerd somewhere or something and they all know who he is. But man, I love it when things like that exist.
Yeah.
You know, you got a town that's playing hockey on pond ice. You know, the pond freezes and all the guys are tough hockey players and the girls are all dating the hockey players and the parents are all supporting the hockey players. And I'm not saying it's good to have a neo-Nazi enclave.
Yeah.
But these places do exist. There's a town in Arizona. You're not allowed to live there unless you're a gun owner. When you come to the town, they say, oh, tell us about your firearms. So, you know, and they want that. That's that town.
Yeah.
You know? And this is why it's good to have different things around the country. Not that it's good to have a neo-Nazi thing around the country, but just that there are people that are interested in whether it's the hot rods or the horses or whatever it may be. Anyway, I'm sure there's plenty of paramilitary organizations all over the country.
Oh yeah.
You know, some are good, loyal citizen, you know, citizen militias that are here to provide medical care and energy and water if there's an emergency. You know, they're not all psycho killers.
Yeah.
You know, supremacists of some kind. And that supremacy, by the way, there's groups in every sect and race. You know what I mean? There are like black supremacy groups and Jewish supremacy groups and there are all that stuff. It's not just all skinhead white guys.
Yeah.
So, but finding yourself in the grip of any of those has got to be a bad deal. And these people have to fight their way out of hell. And boy, when the girl who's the guitar player in the band, when the dogs attack her and they tear her throat out and stuff, that was hard for me.
Yeah, when it gets to this point of escalation where now, you know, the door guy's in the room watching them, he's got a gun. And at some point they're able to get it from him because one of the guys in the band is like a big jujitsu head. Right. So he's you know, got him arm bar and all that, or whatever you call it. I don't know.
Well, he chokes him out. And then he wakes up, he chokes him out again. Yeah. And but in the meantime, he says, I'm going to break your arm, you know, if you move. And then at one point he breaks it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a hard part to watch. And
crunching bone is always, you know.
But yeah, and even through all this, when, you know, Darcy eventually comes to the door and, you know, they're we're afraid to open it. He's like, yeah, just come out. You know, the police have already come and gone. Everything's good. And I do like this kind of game they have to play. And I feel like our main characters, the band, to me, they feel very authentic. Like they might be like punk rock guys and they siphon gas or whatever, but they're scared. They're not a bunch of like John McClanes. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're into. And they know, like, as soon as they see the body, they're like, oh, we're in some like a real tough spot. And they're, you know, on the verge of crying. I like that they don't become like tough guys. Even the one who's the jujitsu dude, I thought this was a very strong moment, was when he does have to murder that guy to protect him and his friends. Yeah. It emotionally takes a toll on him. And he's like tearing up. Like the fact that he just killed someone. He's not like, all right, yeah, I'm a superhero now.
He's
and let's
not
go.
going to walk away from this, even if he escapes.
Yeah.
Even if he escapes, there's going to be an investigation and that's going to come out.
Yeah. Like that's, you know, you're forever haunted by that. And Yeah, I like when our main guy, Pat, Anton Yelchin, is talking to him like, well, the cops are gone. Like, that's our concern, man. Like, we need the police, and we'll give you the gun, but we're going to keep the bullets. Like how they're trying to work this out. And that is a good suspenseful moment as they're opening the door, and Amber is like down watching through the grill,
right,
and sees all the people there. And when they hack his arm
she sees the
up,
red laces, and she's like, they're here to kill us. They're here to kill us. That the killers are here.
Yeah. Yeah. And they hack his arm up real good with some machetes, and his like wrist is half falling off.
The most gruesome thing in the whole movie was when he has the hacked up arm, and his friend decides to wrap it with duct
taping it together.
I mean, I can't even tell you how wrong that was and how hard that was. Like, I was like, no, my God, like you can't, you're never gonna, it's gonna be, you're gonna, you obviously have no experience with duct tape.
Yes.
You get that stuff on you, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, it's terrible. What's terrible? In any kind of a movie like that, where there's like 4 to 6 kids,
mm-hmm.
and one of them they know is hopeless,
right?
Like that, and that guy, it was like, we're never going to fix him. He's
mm-hmm.
This is like this isn't going to end well for him. And every movie they have that. There's always that one guy who he's hurt. They have to get him out of there, but they're never gonna. They're like dragging somebody through the woods or whatever
mm-hmm.
it is, and he's bleeding out, or
mm-hmm.
he's, oh my God, the amount of weapons that they create. They use the fire extinguishers,
right, the fluorescent bulbs, and
I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
She broke the bulb and she had that for like a spear,
mm-hmm.
but then when it came time, they opened the door, she threw it. Like, that would bounce off you, like
right.
that. You'd be able to, but that would be like a girl. Like, how on earth would you? What are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that, really? I mean, unless you can stab somebody in the
mm-hmm.
face immediately, that's a weak weapon. But they
just whatever you got,
they did find and create stuff. I loved it when the guy was down in the heroin lab,
mm-hmm.
and Imogen Poots was up in the upstairs, and they kept on distracting the killer,
so
that each other could. Each one, and then she killed the guy,
mm-hmm.
right, and threw his body down through the hall and stuff. That was gnarly.
Yep.
And then you can see at that point, she was all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like had become, I don't even know, like she wasn't like a monster, like she wasn't a psycho killer, but she was like, I know what I got to do, and I'm up without hesitation. Like
I'm getting out of here.
Her scene was like, I'm going to have to kill everybody that I meet for the next day.
Yeah.
Like everybody in the next 24 hours around me has got to die.
Yeah.
And she was pretty good at maintaining herself and keeping it together. And she actually had the comic relief line at the end of the movie. There was one comic relief line. Do you remember?
Yeah, that was about the desert island band or something.
Yeah, early in the movie, they said if you could only take one band or one album or whatever to a deserted island, not a desert island.
Deserted island,
a deserted island, and they're like the Misfits, or the guy mm-hmm. says, well, if I pick Black Sabbath, do I get Ozzy and I get Dio? Like that. It's like no, just the one, just a and they're negotiating it, and at the end when Pat and Amber, mm-hmm. Pat and Amber, when they do survive and they kill Patrick Stewart, they shoot him,
mm-hmm.
And they shoot, he's trying to draw.
Yeah.
They
get him.
And it's like, no, they lay back. The attack dog is, dying with the master. The head of the neo-Nazis is dead and everything. And there's nobody around all of a sudden. Like they've cleared the field. And he says, I got it. I know that the desert island band or something. She says, why don't you tell somebody who gives a shit?
We never get to hear it. I do like that moment early on when they first try to make their escape, when they get their weapons, mm-hmm. and they say like what their deserted island bands really are. It's like, all right, it's Prince, or it's this or that.
Right, the guy Steely Dan.
But when they go out, and again, I like that they don't suddenly become, heroes and big fun. Like they get picked on. Like the dude Tiger immediately gets attacked by the dog. He's out.
Yeah.
The other two narrowly escape. And even the
they have to retreat back into the green room. Yeah, they had to go
back to the green room.
They make the break for it, but it's like, nope.
Then the one guy who is the jujitsu champion who all right, he can fight. He's the most confident. He gets out the window and they immediately come and just stab him within an inch of his life. And that's the thing. It's like when someone gets to jump on you, it doesn't matter who you are, how well you can fight.
Right. Yeah.
When they're coming at you with knives and you're in a vulnerable position, that doesn't matter anymore.
No.
And it's a real bummer how half of them are just wiped out immediately.
Right.
Didn't even make it out the building really. And then eventually the other chick gets killed by the dog when they get out. And it's very surprising when Mark Webb, who, there's the whole plot where the chick that got killed was with him and they were going to leave and all that stuff. That's kind of part of it.
Killed her.
Yeah.
Worm.
Yeah.
But it was with an E, W-E-R-N, worm. Yeah.
But when Mark Webb catches on to this and he's like, all right, I'll go in there. I'll go in there and get him. And then he ends up, it's because he's saying, his girlfriend was killed. So now he's going to help them escape. And it seems like, all right, we got a new team member. We're ready to go. And when they go out,
he's
there's
a plan.
He's like, I know where they keep the ammo. And he there's a shotgun behind the bar. I know where they keep it. And he just gets his face blown off immediately. Yeah, and that was such a shocking moment in the theater. Because you're just like, all right, he's going to be with them. He's going to get him out.
He's the first one to really get it bad.
Yeah.
That's the moment. Mm-hmm. That's the moment when the bloodbath begins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I it's a great movie and I do like the story. It maybe drags a little bit, but the whole paintball story about, we were up against these Marines and they're using tactics and all this. And we were just a bunch of kids and they were killing us. And, our friend just didn't care anymore and ran out. So that's going to be our approach, in the end here.
It's interesting because we recently reviewed True Grit. And in True Grit, John Wayne says he's got to go up against 4 guys. And he says, when you start charging people and firing 2 pistols like this, you got a good chance of making it through. They'll run. The specter of that happening. Mm-hmm. So these kids are trapped and they say the same thing. They go, you know what? We're going to launch an attack. Mm-hmm. We're going to attack them. They're not going to be ready for that. We're going to, escalate the damage to them. They have something to think about now because they're out there smoking cigarettes. They don't care, right? He said, we're going to let them have it and we're going to bust out and, but they do try it, but they do not make it.
Yeah.
They have to retreat back with three more dead, 3 amongst them dead, right? More. It's like, hey, that was not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's in life that happens a lot. You get a big head of steam and you want to go take care of business, but.
That was after. He doesn't, he finally tells the story once everyone's dead and it's just him and Amber. So it's interesting because they don't go that approach of running out. That's when they get a little more strategic about luring them. Well, and they also got lucky because now it was down to, all right, we're going to send 2 more people in there and they're the young guys. Go in there. You got 1 magazine.
Yeah.
Here's a machete, or a shotgun. So they're down to it's 2 versus 2 now. And, now they're using some strategy. She's hiding in the couch. He's dressed as one of them.
That hiding in the couch was so crazy. Baller. That was really great.
I love that shot. The shot of the guy looking down and then her just creeping up in the background out of focus and with that box cutter. It's such a great shot. Yeah.
And she, she really was a good killer.
Yeah.
She was just a nice girl, And
I mean, all the performances all around. Again, I felt everyone was pretty authentic and on point. I like to see, I'm not a Star Trek fan like you are, but I'm familiar that Patrick Stewart, obviously, possibly the biggest role he's ever done. And I like to see actors.
He plays the part of the introspective intellectual. He's not the gunner. Like Captain Kirk was one, he'd kill everybody. He'd fire the phasers.
Right.
This guy was like, let's try communication. We'll use diplomacy. We'll be this neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
Totally not like.
Yeah.
I was surprised he even took a part like this.
Yeah. But and I love that. I love seeing actors like that get a chance to portray a villain. And then especially when they're they understand their craft so well that he's not playing him as a villain, in his world, this character Darcy, you know, like any compelling villain, like they're the good guy of their story. You know, he's out here just trying to save his building, trying to save his place and make sure he doesn't get pinched by the cops, you know.
Yeah, he's a damage control guy.
And he is a bad guy for sure. And we get that more and more as the movie goes on, but he's not playing it as an evil man. He's like, this is just him. And, you know, a good actor isn't going to judge their character. And, you know, I think he portrays it so well. And I love to see that.
Well, this was a really great recommendation because as you said in the beginning, I would have never watched this without you. As I say many times, the idea here is to watch The Real Generation Gap and see a movie that you would have never seen normally. So it happened for me this week. I watched this. I mean, maybe if I saw it like, you know, on Amazon TV at night and it was 10 o'clock at night and I'd be like, oh, look at this. You know, I might fall asleep with it on, but I wouldn't have studied it.
Right.
I wouldn't have watched it intently. And, you know, like you said, the girl coming out from the sofa, that was a movie in itself. That was a really cool whole little scene, you know, and I often think about them shooting it that day, like the day that was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. She's going to be here. That guy's going to be there. Here's the angle. Because that whole thing was shot from the floor. Yeah. That camera was down here.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't. So really bitching. You're great with these kind of movies. You know this, you know, this is for you, this is like a premium genre.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's the fall asleep, you know, kind of thing like that. So I appreciated this recommendation. It was a real good one.
Yeah.
And so we're recommending this to all of you. I you know, I want to call my friend Chris and tell her to watch it. She likes this kind of stuff.
Nice.
She watches, you know, all the time, right? I wonder, maybe she's seen it.
Yeah. Probably.
You know, but if not, I'll recommend it to her and all the rest of you. And I guess thanks for watching The Real Generation Gap, and look at our reviews and see if there's other stuff that you might find interesting. Did I do this prematurely?
I was just going to say I'm going to give it an 8 real quick.
Oh, you want? Yeah. See, well, that's we can't do that. We can't do that anymore. We can't do it because I felt the same way. That's remember I said a week or two ago we should write it down and put
show it,
and then like because it's worth it. Yeah, you know, I don't know if I would give it an 8. Maybe I would go a little lower because it's not quite my thing the way it's your thing. Sure. You know, but it's definitely not a waste of time. It's definitely worth watching if you're in that kind of a gritty mood. You know, this ain't no rom-com.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you're in the mood for a movie like this, you're going to like this movie a lot. I guarantee that.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this one, everybody.
There you go.
Thanks for watching.